You know, when we think of a wizard in a fantasy setting, there is a very specific, almost universally accepted image that comes to mind.
Oh, absolutely. It's always loud, right?
Right. Loud, explosive. It's usually some, like, chaotic old guy in robes screaming these ancient incantations while hurling a massive, blinding fireball into a room full of monsters.
Yeah, maximum destruction. They're the ultimate magical artillery piece. You just point them at the problem and the problem goes up in smoke.
Exactly. It's pure room-clearing power. But today, for this deep dive, we're looking at a source document that completely, just totally shatters that mold.
It really does.
We're stepping away from the explosions and into something incredibly quiet and, honestly, much more profound. We are unpacking a fascinating document simply titled Wizard.pdf.
And this is dated April 19, 2026, right?
Yes, exactly. It's a set of extensive notes for a highly customized role-playing game character build, which was crafted for a player named Tommy.
And what's brilliant about this isn't just, the game mechanics of the list of spells. It's how this seemingly chaotic stack of ideas constructs a deeply psychological, beautifully realized character profile.
It's so detailed.
It is. The document takes all these pieces and weaves together this fascinating archetype called the Snow Archivist.
Okay, so let's unpack this because, you expect a flashy powerhouse, but this introduces us to someone completely different.
Completely opposite, really.
Right, we have a soft-spoken, slightly distant figure, someone who views magic not as a weapon, but as this fragile memory that basically must be frozen in time to be preserved.
It's a massive subversion of expectations. What's fascinating here is the underlying philosophy driving this build.
Which is what, exactly?
Well, the idea that knowledge is most valuable not when it's hoarded for power, but when it is truly understood and meticulously preserved.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, if we look at the core identity, the fundamental vibe of the Snow Archivist, it's incredibly evocative. Their primary drive isn't world domination or, defeating evil.
It's actually a core fear, right?
Yes, they are absolutely terrified that ideas, magic, and meaning will simply vanish unnoticed into the void of history.
And that fear dictates their entire aesthetic. Like, the document paints this vivid picture of ink-stained fingers and actual frost physically forming on the edges of their parchment as they write.
It's a very specific visual.
It is, and they are a blend of two distinct flavors that the notes call the snowflake philosopher, someone who sees immense beauty in fleeting things, and the quiet kid under the rock.
Quiet kid under the rock. I love that description.
Right. It's that person who observes the group dynamics from the outside, silently calculating before dropping a perfectly timed, brilliant thought.
It's what the creator refers to as the Tommy core identity. They are an organized mess.
Which is so relatable.
Oh, for sure. They collect chaotic, mismatched scrolls, half-finished sketches, weird magical theories. Their entire purpose is turning those fragmented, scattered ideas into actual, usable meaning.
I was reading this and just thinking about the contrast. The typical wizard is like a reckless action movie hero, right? Kicking down the door, wands blazing.
Yeah, totally.
But the Snow Archivist, they are more like an elite art restorer who has calmly set up their workstation in the middle of an active war zone.
That is a perfect analogy.
And here's where it gets really interesting. This character deliberately chooses to use cold magic, but not to freeze enemies to death.
Right, it's not about the damage.
Exactly. They use ice as a literal metaphor for preservation over destruction, because fire burns the library down,
But ice preserves what time would otherwise erase.
Yes.
That metaphor of ice as a preservative is brilliant, and it ties directly into their moral alignment. The sheet classifies them as neutral-leaning good.
So they aren't your typical shiny hero?
No, not at all. They believe knowledge should help people, but they aren't driven by a traditional, chest-thumping heroic obligation to save the world.
They're described as a preserver of wonder, right?
Exactly. They intervene because they have a deep, underlying desire to protect fragile things, whether those are people, delicate ideas, or lost memories.
So they maintain this emotionally detached exterior, but secretly, they care incredibly deeply about the fragility of the world.
Spot on.
Wait, hold on, though. I love the poetry of that, the whole detached art restorer vibe. But we have to talk about how that actually works in practice.
You mean in the actual game?
Yeah. If you have a character who is quiet, introspective, and physically detached. How do they actually survive a dangerous adventure?
It's a very valid question.
Right, because you can't just politely ask a rampaging troll to respect the fragility of a library.
No, you definitely cannot. And that is the exact challenge of the game design here. How do you translate pure psychology into mathematical mechanics?
So how do they do it?
Well, let's look at their foundation, where they are at around level 5, which represents an established, capable adventurer. They are a human wizard, specifically taking the Order of Scribes subclass with a sage background.
The choice of human is highly intentional here too, right?
No, absolutely. They aren't an elf who has lived for 1,000 years.
Right.
They weren't born with innate magical blood. They are a self-made wizard. They had to learn, collect, and preserve magic through sheer curiosity and human obsession.
And when you look at their statistics, it really tells a story. Their intelligence is a 17. That is their highest stat.
Which represents this constant churning engine of idea generation and abstract pattern recognition.
Right. But then you look at their constitution, which is a 14. Now, in game terms, constitution usually just dictates how many hit points you have, right? Like how well you take a punch.
Normally, yes. But this build specifically reframes that 14 constitution as creative endurance.
I love that reframe so much. It's not about taking a sword swing, it's the ability to survive those long, grueling nights of experimenting.
Exactly. It's the persistence to keep reading ancient runes by candlelight despite experiencing total mental burnout.
They don't break easily, they endure quietly.
Yeah, and they also take a specific feat early on called Keen Mind, which grants them perfect recall for anything they've seen or heard in the past month.
Wow.
Yeah, they don't just remember things, they internalize and catalog every single experience. They map unseen worlds in their head.
Okay, but let's look at the flip side of those numbers. Their strength is an 8.
Very low.
Yeah, they are physically weak. The creator explicitly describes them as physically detached. And their charisma is a 10, which is basically the baseline for an average socially neutral person.
True.
So if I'm putting together a specialized team to go into a dark, lethal dungeon to fight monsters, I mean, a physically weak, socially invisible guy sounds like a massive liability.
It sounds bad on paper, yeah.
Why would anyone want them watching their back?
It's a fair point, but we have to reevaluate what those numbers mean in this specific context. A 10 charisma doesn't mean they're socially awkward or some trembling liability. It just means they're quiet. They don't command the room the second they walk in. The document introduces this wonderful concept to explain it: quiet authority.
Quiet authority. How does that play out in a group of loud adventurers?
Well, people don't notice the archivist immediately. But because they listen first and speak second, when they finally do open their mouth, it carries immense intellectual weight.
Ah, I see.
While the rest of the party is arguing, the archivist has already analyzed the problem. They offer the quiet signal in the noise.
And as for the low strength,
It just means they live entirely in their mind. They completely avoid brute force solutions because physical confrontation isn't their arena. They know they can't win an arm wrestling match, so they make sure the match never happens.
but avoiding brute force doesn't mean avoiding conflict entirely. I mean, the world is full of threats. So how does an archivist who lives entirely in their own mind approach a life or death battle
They approach it like a system.
as a system?
Yeah. The core combat philosophy laid out for the archivist is, and I quote, "A fight is a system. Change the system and you win."
That is so cold and analytical.
Exactly. They remove all emotion from combat. They don't panic. They don't try to race the enemy to see who can dish out the most damage the fastest. They treat the fight like a complex puzzle they have to solve in real time.
The breakdown of their spell choices is wild, actually, because it totally ignores the classic wizard mindset. They don't try to win fast. They try to make it fundamentally impossible to lose.
Which is a huge distinction.
Right. Dealing damage is completely secondary. Instead, they rely heavily on what is called battlefield control.
Which means using spells that alter the physical environment.
Exactly. They use spells like Web or Grease or Sleet Storm. Their entire goal is to slow down decisions, reduce chaos, and literally lock down physical space.
And because of their Order of Scribes subclass, they have this unique mechanical ability to change the damage types of their spells to maintain that thematic consistency.
Oh, right. So a fiery, explosive fireball mathematically becomes a freezing ice burst.
It's all about thematic unity. All magic preserved in frost. And this control strategy completely evolves later in their career. The document points to a massive power spike around level 12.
What happens at level 12?
Well, after years of surviving and studying, their mind fundamentally expands. This is represented mechanically by a feature they unlock called Manifest Mind.
This is where the mechanics get so cool.
It really is. Manifest Mind allows their physical spellbook to become a floating, ghostly archive, an external brain, essentially that they can project across the battlefield.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they can actually cast their spells from the book's location instead of their own body. Add to that access to high-level spells like Wall of Force or Wall of Ice, and they gain absolute terrifying control over the terrain.
Okay, so think about what this means in practice for you, the listener. You've got the rest of the party playing what is essentially a frantic first-person shooter, right?
Running around swinging swords.
Dodging attacks, managing their health, screaming for healing. But the Archivist, the Archivist is playing a top-down tower defense game. They aren't even really in the room.
They're completely removed from the immediate physical danger.
Right. Thanks to Manifest Mind, they are safely behind cover, maybe in the next room, projecting this ghostly book into the middle of the fight.
It's brilliant.
They are everywhere and nowhere. They become a haunting presence on the battlefield rather than a physical target. They are playing chess while everyone else is playing dodgeball.
Look at their decision-making loop in that scenario. Every single turn, the Archivist isn't asking, who can I hit the hardest? That's what the fighter does.
Right.
The Archivist is asking, where can I reduce chaos? And can I reshape the physical battlefield instead of reacting to it?
It's pure systems thinking in motion.
Exactly. They are identifying the choke points of reality itself and removing options from the enemy. It's a mindset that is highly applicable, far beyond a fantasy game board.
Which perfectly bridges into how they operate when swords are sheathed, because this systematic thinking isn't just reserved for enemies in combat.
No, not at all.
If they view a battlefield as a puzzle to solve, how do they view the rest of the world?
Well, their core philosophy for out-of-combat exploration is, everything leaves a trace. I just have to notice it.
That's a great line.
It is. This is where the character truly thrives. They're the ultimate information gatherer, the ultimate pattern recognizer. They're always asking, why is this here? Or, what happened before we arrived to make the room look like this?
And because of that mindset, their preferred environments aren't bustling taverns or city streets. They want ancient ruins, magical anomalies, forgotten libraries.
Places with history.
Yeah, and they absolutely hate fast-paced survival scenarios, like running from a collapsing bridge because they can't sit and study the system.
Right. There's no time to think. And as their mind expands later in their career, their role shifts. It goes from, I collect knowledge to, I decide what knowledge matters.
That's a big jump.
It is. They start predicting traps based on architectural logic before they even trigger them. They understand the purpose of a ruin instantly.
Oh, and to manage all this data, the creator gave them this amazing homebrew magical item called the Scroll Case of Endless Margins.
I love this item.
Me too. It holds an infinite number of scrolls, but the best part is, when the Archivist writes notes in the margins, sometimes the case writes back.
It's the perfect item for a walking archive engine. They have gone from being a mere collector of dust to an active creator and refiner of magic, constantly in dialogue with the magic itself.
You know, I have to admit, reading about their out-of-combat behavior really made me reflect on myself.
Oh yeah, in what way?
Just the way they hoard half-finished scrolls, weird theories, taking constant notes, carrying around an awakened spellbook. Think about your own habits, listener. Are you guilty of this?
I know I am.
Right. Hoarding dozens of open browser tabs, saving a million articles you swear you'll read one day, keeping messy notebooks full of fragmented thoughts. We all do it.
Oh, absolutely.
We are all hoping that one day we'll be able to stitch those fragmented, chaotic ideas into some kind of organized meaning, just like the Snow Archivist.
It's a very relatable, very human trait. But what separates the archivist from someone just hoarding browser tabs is their method.
What do you mean?
Well, they don't just guess. They rely on deliberate ritual magic spells, like identify or comprehend languages, which take time to cast but yield precise answers.
Oh, I see.
They break a problem down into its raw components and test it safely.
So they aren't just throwing magic at the wall to see what sticks.
Exactly. And this raises an important question for all of us. How often do we rush to act in our own lives when we really should be pausing?
That's a great point.
The Archivist's mantra is logic before action. Understand the system before you touch the system.
And all this theory, the mental stats, the combat philosophy of reducing chaos, the logic-first exploration, it is all put to the ultimate test in the final climactic scene described in the source notes.
Yes, the Manahai Masterclass.
Exactly. Let's look at what happens when the Snow Archivist is pushed to the absolute brink in this scene.
This scene is incredible. It perfectly synthesizes everything we discussed today. Let's set the stage.
Okay, paint the picture for us.
The party is in a collapsed subvault beneath the Manahheim Academy. The environment is completely ruined. Bookshelves are shattered, the ancient scrolls are rotted, and the magical energy in the air is totally unstable, practically sparking.
It's a powder keg.
Exactly. At the center of the room is the core threat, a fractured arcane engine that was once used to store and replicate high-level spells. But it's breaking down.
And that's bad.
Very bad. It's causing reality itself to flicker. And guarding this engine is a spell echo warden.
Which is?
It's basically a massive, terrifying construct made of corrupted magic that is just randomly firing off unstable spells in every direction.
So it is pure, terrifying chaos. Lightning and fire just ricocheting off the walls.
Total mayhem.
And the party's reaction is exactly what you'd expect from a group of adventurers. The fighter charges in with their sword drawn. The rogue tries to flank the machine. The cleric preps a massive healing spell.
They immediately try to smash the threat.
Right. But what does the Archivist do?
Step 1, observation. They don't act immediately, they just watch the chaos.
While everyone else is screaming and running.
Yep. And with that incredibly high intelligence and perfect pattern recognition, they realize the construct isn't actually choosing its spells. It's tethered to the broken engine.
Oh.
The monster isn't the enemy. It is simply a symptom of a malfunctioning system.
Which leads to step 2, control. The Archivist doesn't cast a fire spell at the warden.
No?
They cast Sleet Storm. They deliberately fill the entire vault with blinding, freezing rain and slick ice.
Right over their own team?
Yes. They obscure vision, break the chaos, and literally force their own party to halt. They tell them, slow down all of you.
It's the ultimate expression of quiet authority. In the middle of a magical hurricane, they take command, not by shouting louder, but by freezing the board.
That gives me chills.
Then comes step 3. The breakthrough. The Archivist uses Manifest Mind. Instead of walking into the literal crossfire, their ghostly spellbook drifts forward right into the danger zone.
Allowing them to cast safely from point-blank range while standing by the door.
Exactly. And through the book, they realize that if the engine's glyph ring is stabilized, the warden loses power entirely.
And that brings us to step 4, the decision. The party is panicking, slipping on the ice, screaming over the wind, like, do we destroy it, hit the core?
And the Archivist,
perfectly calm, says, no, if we break it, we lose everything it holds.
so good.
So they don't destroy it. They project a wall of force, but not to trap the monster. They shape the invisible wall to perfectly isolate the engine core from the rest of the room.
And then what?
Then they use a highly specific niche scroll they've been hoarding for months. A spell designed to stabilize arcana to rewrite the engine's behavior. They reboot the machine without shattering it.
And the storm stops. The ream goes dead quiet. The warden dissipates into harmless mist. Frost lingers on the broken scrolls.
Just perfect silence.
Yeah. And the rest of the heavily armed party just stares at the Archivist. Not because the Archivist dealt the most damage, they didn't deal any damage at all.
Right.
But because they won the fight purely with understanding. They controlled the physical space, identified the true root of the problem, and preserved the ancient knowledge instead of destroying it.
It is the absolute culmination of their entire life philosophy.
Really is.
It's an incredible scene to visualize.
Yeah.
And it brings us to the end of our journey today. We've taken a deep dive from a simple page of role-playing stats to an absolute masterclass in character psychology.
We really have.
We explored a hero whose greatest weapons aren't legendary swords or apocalyptic fireballs, but rather their infinite patience, their perfect recall, and their unshakable belief in preservation. Tommy's document beautifully summarizes this mindset.
What does it say?
It says, chaos is loud. Time erases everything. But if I can slow the moment, if I can preserve the pattern, then something survives.
That is profound. And the final line from the notes perfectly encapsulates their ultimate role in the world. It reads, the fighter wins battles, the rogue wins moments, the cleric saves lives. You decide what survives.
You decide what survives. I love that so much.
It's a great thought.
So we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today. In your own daily life, when you are faced with a chaotic, malfunctioning system, whether that's a massive miscommunication at work, a bitter conflict in a relationship, or a creative project that is just completely falling apart, how do you react?
Are you the action hero rushing in to smash the problem with brute force?
Right. Or can you be the archivist? Can you step back, observe the hidden pattern, preserve what actually matters, and quietly reshape what remains? Think back to that blazing fireball versus the quiet art restorer. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't to blow up the room, it's to stop, understand the system, and gently freeze the moment before it's lost forever.